This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 49.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 49, and this week's special guest is Tom Corson-Knowles. He's an author. He also teaches people how to publish books, and he runs a publishing company where he does the work for you. So enjoy today's episode. Hi, Tom, and welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Alex. It's great to be here.
Tom, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what is that you do as a business.
Yeah, so I'm an author. I write books on personal development, marketing, and business, and also I also teach authors how to write, publish, and market their books. I own a publishing company called TCK Publishing, and so for my students who have gone through my courses or just don't want to learn how to self-publish and publish their own books and market their own books, we do that for them. So we provide the publishing services, but really my main thing what I do is I love to teach. I love to learn. I love to teach. It's my passion. So I've been reading a book a day for over 10 years on average, and I love to write. I love to share information with other people that will help them improve their lives and make the world a better place.
Oh, that's a lot of books.
Yeah, I love to learn, man. It's my passion.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something that I've been doing a lot more since I started the whole, an entrepreneurship journey. In my case, I've started reading a lot more than I used to, and I don't know about you, but I don't really read fiction books anymore. It just doesn't. I don't know how should I put it. I like to mix pleasure with something useful. So this is why I read nonfiction books, because I always learn something new, and it's a pleasure to read them. So that's kind of a mix that works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I read almost all nonfiction as well. And when I do read fiction, it's more as like watching a movie. It's like enjoyment. I don't consider it. It's very different for me than reading nonfiction and actually learning something new.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And Tom, tell me, how did you get into the whole publishing and teaching people to publish? Did you already have your own books and then you've decided that there's a demand for it, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so I started writing actually when I was like 11, 12 years old. I started writing poems to my computer, like on a word processor, and didn't really know what I was doing. I don't even know, I didn't have any friends who wrote poetry. I didn't have anyone who encouraged me to write poetry. I just started writing. So I've always been kind of writing since I was very young, just as a hobby, And when I was 19, I went to business school, and I realized really quickly that, all my classmates, they wanted to go to Wall Street, become investment bankers. This was like right before the financial crisis hit. And I was not interested at all. I didn't want to work 100 hours a week, slaving away for someone else, just counting dollars in Wall Street. And so I got really scared what my life would look like if I went down that path. And so I decided I better get really clear on what it is that I do want in my life, because if I don't, I'm just going to follow the same path that everyone else is following, and it's not going to make me happy or fulfilled. So that led to me writing my first book, which was basically started out as a personal manifesto for me to get really clear on what I thought it meant to live a successful life. Beyond just having money and financial freedom, what does a successful life look like for me? And so that book kind of became a rule set of, guidelines for me to follow to live a good life. And I shared it with a few friends and family. They loved it. They really encouraged me to try to get it traditionally published. So I tried for 6 years and totally failed. Couldn't get an agent to represent me, could not get a traditional book deal, and pretty much gave up on my dream at that point. But about 4 years ago, a friend just offhand mentioned to me, why don't you just self-publish your book on Kindle? And I had been reading Kindle since it first came out. I knew that ebooks were awesome. I knew that they were the future. I loved reading ebooks, but I didn't know it was possible to just self-publish a book on an ebook, because back then, before Kindle came out, if you wanted to self-publish a book, it was going to cost you at least $25,000. You'd have to order at least 5,000 copies, have them shipped to your garage. Every time you wanted to sell a book, you'd have to collect the cash from the customer. You'd have to, get the book, sign it, put it in an envelope, get the address, mail it out. Every time you wanted to sell a book, that's how you had to do it back then. So for me, it really appealed to me to figure out, okay, if I can make this thing work with ebooks, that would be really cool. So I studied everything I could at the time on publishing on Kindle, which was very little. I think there was like one book on the topic and a couple of blog posts. And there wasn't a lot of information back then. But I studied everything I could. I figured it out. I called Amazon support over and over, asked a lot of questions, and basically self-published my first book. But I was so embarrassed that I had to self-publish at that point that I didn't tell anyone in the world that I had actually done it. So I didn't tell friends or family or do any marketing or promotion. But I checked back in my account a month later, and I saw that I had 14 sales. And I was jumping up and down. I was hooting and hollering. I was like so excited, like, yes, I sold 14 books. Because I knew immediately, look, Alex, if I could sell 14 books without telling a soul what I had done, imagine what I could do if I treated this like a business and started marketing and promoting and really getting my name and my book and my brand out there. And so that's what I did. And within the first 12 months, I had my first $12,000+ month just from Kindle ebook royalties alone.
Wow, that is really awesome. Sorry.
Yep. So that's how it happened.
Wow, that's really amazing. And Tom, this is something that a lot of people kind of know about now, that it's possible to a lot easier, let's say, to self-publish books, especially if it's ebooks using Kindle and other platforms. And what you're telling me, that when you started, there was no information available. It's not like you couldn't afford to pay someone to show you how to do it. There was no one teaching this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, there really wasn't. I mean, the only people teaching this stuff were actually other authors who were self-published, who just kind of figured it out on their own. And they would just talk about, how much money they earned self-publishing, or maybe they would say like, go to this website, kdp.amazon.com, and, create an account and publish your book. But there wasn't really a lot of guidance in terms of, okay, how do I, basic stuff, like how do I get a good title for my book? How do I get an editor for my book? How do you do these basic things to become successful? Because it's easy to just go to kdp.amazon.com and upload your file and click publish. But that doesn't mean you're going to be successful, And so it was very hard to find that kind of information, because I wanted to make sure I did a good job, the best job I could. And so, I made all kinds of mistakes at the beginning, but I learned from them and constantly improved along the way.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I thought of it at some point too. And my biggest questions, I guess, because I could figure a lot of it out. And since I'm in the marketing space, I would probably have my own ways of, coming up with a good name for the book and so on. But let's say in my case, it would be more of technical issues as how to structure the book, how to write the index for the book. Like, it's all those little things that are also, I'm sure a lot of people have the same questions, and it actually scares them from even self-publishing, because they don't know where to even begin with all of that, and that's fear, it's something that holds a lot of us back.
Absolutely. There's a great metaphor that kind of describes this whole process of accomplishing like something big. Like writing a book, publishing a book can be something really big to a lot of people. And I know when I first started out, like I couldn't even imagine, writing a book, let alone publishing it. Because it's kind of like, you're driving at night. Like imagine you're in your car driving at night from New York to LA, and all you can see on the road is the first, 200 feet in front of you that your headlights reveal. You can't see past that, right? And so all you can do when you're driving is you just have to keep moving forward, and the path will be revealed to you. It really helps if you've got a map of where you're going, or, you've got, Google Maps open, you got your GPS going to direct you. But in real life, you don't have that kind of step-by-step Google navigation for, how to publish a book, And, my course, I try to walk people through and give them that kind of navigation guide. But anytime you want to do something new, you're not going to know every single step along the way. So the key is just take that next step. Constantly be focused on what is the next step you can take, because that's the only thing you can do. I mean, if you try to drive the next 5 miles before you get there, you can't do it. All you can do is drive from where you are. So start where you are and take the next step. That's the biggest thing. Every day you wake up, what is the next step I have to do? And in any area of your life, what is the next step to write my book, to publish my book, to have a better marriage, to, be a better parent, whatever it is for you, whatever is important to you in your life. I think every day we have to stay focused on what is my next step, and not be so concerned about what is step 97 or 342, because you're not going to know until you get there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I'm ashamed to admit that I fall into the trap still sometimes. But yeah, I guess that's our human nature to, kind of stop ourselves. And I think it's that fear that comes in again, right? That kind of, it's the fear that prevents us to do things we really want to do. And it's the fear that pushes us like, well, but look at the step 198. Do you know what that's going to be? And you're like, no, I don't. So, and then your fear comes back. Well, maybe you shouldn't do any of that. It's, it's unknown. It's not familiar. It's not in your comfort zone. Just don't do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we all have that fear. It's just human nature. It's part of just how our mind's programmed to keep us safe. Our brain is programmed to help us survive, not to help us be happy and fulfilled, And so we have to learn how to do that. We have to learn those skills and tools. And so one of the things that's really been helpful for me is learning to meditate. And I really don't even like to use the word meditate. I like more like, mindfulness training. Because I think there's a lot of kind of religious BS and pseudoscientific BS around meditation. But really what it's about is just being aware. It's practicing awareness. And when you're really aware and you're living in the present moment, all you can do is focus on, what you're working on, what you're working towards, and not be so concerned about, what's going to happen a week from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, which is important to, set goals and to have an aim to where you're going. But when it comes to actually getting stuff done and having a successful life, you actually have to be there. You have to be present. You have to do the work. And for me, having that mindfulness training has been really, really helpful.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tom. All right, Tom. So I'd like to take you back to those 6 years that you've been trying to publish your book and it wasn't working out. What were you doing to make a living back then? And why were you still being so persistent and trying to get it published even though it wasn't working out for so long?
Yeah, so great question. So first of all, what I was doing was I started a business in college around the time I started writing my first book. And I was basically selling nutritional supplements with a network marketing company called Juice Plus. And love it. I still take their product every day. Still absolutely love that. I still get checks every month, which is great. But I don't like being on the phone all day. I'm definitely an introvert and I don't really enjoy being on the phone a lot, which is kind of the cornerstone of that business is being on the phone with your team, coaching people, which I like to do, but just not all day long. So, so around the time I started the business around the time I started writing my first book. So I was kind of building that business while I was trying to pursue a traditional book deal. So it was kind of both of them were pretty much part-time. And then about 4 years after I started the Juice Plus business, I decided, it's not really the right fit for my personality because, again, I just didn't like being on the phone all day long. And so that's when I started thinking about, okay, well, what else could I do? Well, I could get my book published. And so I started focusing on that a little bit more. But, it just felt like I was banging my head against the wall over and over again, begging some agent or publisher to, read my book and give me feedback and publish it. It felt like I was asking for a handout, and it was really kind of embarrassing and a little bit depressing, to feel like I needed approval from someone else. Which was very different from, the business I had built before, which was all about, adding value to people's lives and seeing how I could make a difference in other people's lives. It seemed like a very different model, and it wasn't really one I was real happy with, begging for someone else's approval. So I pretty much, gave up on it and started doing blogging and internet marketing and things like that, to just see what I could do to get my message out there online. And that's when, a few years into that, my friend just mentioned Kindle Publishing and it took off from there.
That's interesting because you see, not a lot of people, actually, I don't think I know anyone who would be as persistent as you were trying to get it published for so long, I think that's something special. That takes a lot of something special.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just always had this feeling since I started reading personal development books and learning about that, life is short, man. Like life is really, really, really short. I'm only 28 now, but in the last 10 years have flown by so fast. It's unbelievable. And you only have so much time on this earth to do anything, to do what's something meaningful, to make a difference in the world, which is a passion of mine. Is I really want to make the world a better place, And so I've always had that kind of inner drive, that inner motivation to do something important with my life. And, if I don't get my book published, my thought process back then was like, look, if I don't get this book published, it's going to be a huge waste. All the time I spent writing it, all the time I spent thinking about it, all the time I spent trying to get it published, it would all have gone to waste if I didn't make it happen. And so even though I put that dream on hold for a couple of years, I always had that in the back of my mind. So as soon as that opportunity came around to self-publish on Kindle, I jumped for it because I knew that was what I had been looking for all those years. And that's, I found a lot of things in my life have worked out that way where, as long as you keep that in the back of your mind and you're open to opportunities, when that opportunity comes, when the right opportunity comes for you, you'll know. And the key then is to take action and take full out massive action and make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. All right, Tom. So let's go back to your first published book on Kindle. So it's live. People bought some copies. You were super happy. What happened after that? How did you take that to the next level?
Yeah, great question. So I published the first book, saw like 14 sales that first month, and that's when I realized I was sitting on a gold mine because, like I mentioned, I've been writing for so many years, and so I actually had on my computer about 10 or 12 manuscripts that were, some were half written, some were only a few paragraphs written, but 10 or 12 manuscripts that I had been working on over the years. And that I realized right away, I'm sitting on this gold mine. I need to finish this stuff, And so I started going back to my manuscripts and focusing on one at a time. Okay, what do I need to do to finish this to make it a great book? And so I just cranked out. In that first year, I published about 12 books in that first year. And most of them, about 10 of them were already pre-written somewhat, and 2 were totally new. And so I just, every day I got up and I was totally inspired to get to work. It was a very different experience than in my first business where, sometimes I was inspired, but sometimes not so much. But for that entire year, I was every day I woke up and I couldn't wait to get to my computer to write my manuscript. It was just this inspiration or motivation. I don't know what you want to call it, but just that inner fire to I could not wait to get up and to work and to write my books and to publish them. So that's what I did is I just worked every day on writing more books. And then when I got burned out in writing, because I can't usually write for more than 4 hours a day. After that, I kind of get burnt out. And so I started in the afternoons, then I would work on, the marketing and promotions, doing blog posts, doing social media, building my email list, doing the marketing and promotion things to help me actually sell more books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really awesome. And this is something that I love it when it happens to me. I guess it's never happened to me to that extent as you, every single day. But it is crazy how sometimes you get so motivated and fired up that you can't even sleep.
Yes, exactly.
You're putting yourself to bed. You know that you've been awake for 18 hours. And you know that you really need to get a good rest in order to be functional tomorrow morning. But yet you can't because you have all these ideas in your head and you're so tempted to just get up and go and keep on working the whole night through, which is not going to be productive because like you mentioned, there's only that much we can do. And, if you're already tired, you're not going to be able to write for 4 hours straight. You're going to do 30 minutes and then you're just going to crash.
Yeah.
But it's still an amazing feeling when that happens and you have that passion and drive inside of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things I've learned about life is that everything comes in waves. Sometimes you're going to be totally inspired and totally motivated and just kicking butt and totally productive. And other times you're not. You're going to feel down. You may feel depressed. That's just part of being a human, And so learning to ride those waves gracefully, I think has been crucial to me to be just, happy and sane because I think, the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur, being a self-published author is a lot. It's a lot of emotional up and downs. And so I think learning to manage that is really, really crucial and be okay with that. It's okay to have days where you don't do anything. And it's okay to have days where you work 20 hours straight and your friends and family think you're insane because you're just sitting in the office all day working. But it's if it's what you love to do, if it's what makes you happy, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. You're doing what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And sometimes I kind of feel bad when I miss out on a party or something. Right, because a lot of people say that you should be doing something that pushes you forward in life and not the opposite. And I don't really agree with it to this extent because this advice often people mention you should, let's say, miss out on parties with your friends and use that time to work instead. And no, I don't agree because being able to work for myself and creating my own working schedule gives me the time to hang out with those friends, which is, kind of the ultimate goal, right? To do what makes you happy. And if going to a party with my friends makes me happy, then that's what I'm going. That's what I'm working for. So sometimes when I'm really motivated or I really do have a lot of stuff to work, to do, to accomplish, I would miss out on meeting some friends or going out, and I would kind of feel bad a little bit. But at the same time, I do use that excuse. I'm like, yes, but that work that I'm getting done today is pushing me so much forward in my plan. So it's worth it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everyone has to find, what your values are and what's most important to you at any given moment, And I think the problems come in with when you listen to advice that's just blanket advice, like, yeah, you should work all night long or whatever. For some people it's perfect. That's exactly what they need, And for other people, it's just not what makes them happy, and it's not what they need. So just finding what it is that makes you fulfilled and happy and successful, and trying to balance all those things, But I mean, you're never going to find the perfect balance of, just enough work and just enough playtime. Like I said, everything comes in waves. So sometimes where you're working way more than you're hanging out with friends, and other times where you're hanging out with friends way more than you're working. And I think, accepting that and embracing that is going to make you a lot happier than trying to fight it constantly.
Okay, Tom. So you're publishing these books, and now you're doing marketing. That's something totally different from what you did with your first book, where you didn't promote it anyway. As you mentioned, you didn't tell a single soul that it was out and it was published on a Kindle. So how did you get into all that marketing of your book stuff? Did you have to learn that separately, or were you learning all along while you were writing your books? How did that happen? Because this is a crucial part, but it's also a really hard part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's totally crucial. And it can be difficult to learn. But I think, like I said, I've been reading a book a day. So on average for the past 10 years. So I just started changing my reading schedule to reading stuff about self-publishing. And there were actually a lot of books written on self-publishing, but they all had to do with printing physical books and spending $25,000 and shipping them in your garage and that kind of thing, right? But I could still learn from those other authors about how do they actually marketed and promoted and sold their books. And so that was really helpful. I read a ton of books on marketing and promotion and started really studying it, started studying social media, email marketing, blogging, all that stuff. And just started learning, a little bit every day. So, my motto is, look, if I learn something, one new thing today that's useful that can help me, sell more books or have a better relationship with my fiance or, whatever it is, if I can learn one useful thing today, then that's a good day. And if I can apply that one good, useful thing, that's even better day. So it's just a process of constantly working on learning and learning and learning. But it's not hard today to learn this stuff. That's the amazing thing. Like with YouTube now, a couple of weeks ago, my fiance and I, we got into doing origami. And so I am horrible at origami. Like when I was a kid, I was the kid who you could look at the origami instructions and I would never get it right. And it would always look awful and I just hated it. But we found this YouTube video about how to do like an origami paper crane. And it was like so much easier because I could pause the video, I could rewind it, I could watch every single step along the way. And lo and behold, at the end of that video, I had a finished, almost perfect origami crane. There's so much information out there these days to how to do stuff. If you just search for it and be willing to invest the time in learning how to do it, you can figure it out.
Yeah, that is true. And honestly, I find it surprising how many people don't take use of it still. I have so many people that email me with such basic questions like, what is WordPress? And it surprises me that people would take the time to email me with that question and wait for, whatever long it takes me to reply to that email instead of just Googling it.
Exactly.
Because we have all this information, as you said, available. Pretty much anything could be found online right now. But I still find that a lot of people are not using it properly. They're still not accustomed to searching and, seeking the information that they need.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people just haven't learned those skills. And also, I mean, you have to have that kind of awareness in the first place that, okay, this is something I want to learn, and I'm committing, the next 10, 20, 30 minutes to learn how to do it. It only took 30 minutes to learn how to do an origami paper crane with YouTube. And I was, before that, I was like the worst origami person in the entire world, So, but it takes like 30 committed minutes where your focused attention is 100% on learning it. And you have to look through maybe 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 videos until you find the one that you can actually follow along with, But you just got to be willing to put the time in and set that time aside, you know. And so a big part about what I do with my calendar, and I know some people don't even use calendars, which kind of boggles my mind. I don't know how you could be an entrepreneur today and not be using a calendar. But in my calendar, I actually schedule time to do stuff that's, I schedule time in my calendar to think, to think about problems and solutions in my business and life and personal life. I schedule time to do stuff, because it's if you have an appointment with your doctor next Tuesday at 11 a.m., you're going to show up. You're going to be there. You're not going to skip it. So if something's important to you and you have the habit already of checking your calendar every day to see what's on the schedule, then putting those important things in your calendar, today I'm going to learn how to blog. I'm going to learn how to use WordPress. I'm going to learn what WordPress is. And even if you only spend 15, 30 minutes a day learning stuff, by the end of the year, you'll be so much farther advanced than you were at the beginning of the year, and so much farther advanced than most of your peers, because most people just aren't doing that. They're not constantly learning every day. And so that's why I think that habit of reading so much has really helped me, because I've just gotten that habit of every day I have to learn something new. Every day I have to learn something new. And then, putting those things that I learn into my calendar to actually apply them and to put them into practice, that will transform your life.
Yeah, totally. I get what you're saying. And I don't want to touch politics and stuff on my podcast, but I think I kind of have to at this point. Personally, I blame the educational systems we have in both US and Canada, because I think our schools do not develop that thirst for learning enough,
Absolutely.
People, what kids are taught at schools, this is what they take, right? They're teaching you history, and you read that paragraph in a book, and that's all you learn. But I find they don't work hard enough to train us to be interested, to be, involved and seek out information by ourselves. And this is why a lot of kids actually have trouble at universities, because they don't know how to look for the information. They don't know how to, they don't have that curiosity about things. They don't want to learn more than they're asked for. And I find that kind of sad, because if all of us were like you, if all of us wanted to read one book per day, we would be so much more knowledgeable, and I think we would know ourselves a lot more, and it would be so much easier for us to figure out things that we want to do in life if we were just more curious and would actually take action to, fulfill that curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a great book I read recently called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And she talks about the two kind of mindsets are the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And she's done all kinds of research on this. It's really groundbreaking stuff. And basically, we all have both mindsets. We all have a fixed mindset sometimes and a growth mindset sometimes. But what she found was that when someone's in that fixed mindset, they think that, if I got a question wrong in class at math, that means I'm stupid at math. I'll never be good at math. The way I am now is fixed. I'll always be bad at math, right? And we hear that, I'm sure you hear that all the time. People say, I'm bad at math, right? That's the fixed mindset. Whereas the growth mindset says, hey, I may have gotten that question wrong. I may not know very much about algebra right now, but if I study and I learn and I work hard at it, I can improve and get better and better and better. And that's how you become good at anything in life. Everyone starts out as a novice. I started out as one of the worst writers on the planet, and now I'm slightly better than one of the worst writers on the planet, because I've been working at it for so long. But that's how it works in every field. Serena Williams, one of the greatest tennis players in the world, right? She started out not knowing how to even hold a tennis racket, So we all start out at zero. And the question is, do you want to make progress? And then the only answer is, if you want to make progress, then you have to be willing to learn and make mistakes and grow and try hard and work hard at it.
Yeah, totally. And, often people mention that 10,000 hour rule, that if you do something for 10,000 hours, you become the absolute expert in it. And I'm not sure if I agree with the actual number here, but let's say when someone publishes a book, they wrote the whole book and they, self-published it, they are already a better author than 99.9% of world's population, because those 99% never even wrote a few pages.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
It does make an expert, and the more you do it, the better you get at it, and there's no way around it. Practice makes perfection.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell my clients all the time, they're always kind of worried about, Is the first book going to do well? Is it going to be successful? Is it good enough? And I tell them, look, I don't care about your first book. I guarantee you your fifth book is going to be a lot better than your first book. And so get to your fifth book, get to your 10th book. And the same in any field. If you want to be a great tennis player, don't worry about how good you do in the first day. Let me tell me how good you do on the fifth year, of practicing constantly. So the more you do something, the better you can get at it. And you're always going to start at zero. You're always going to be bad when you begin. And that's just how life works. But if you want to get to the top in any field, you got to be willing to go through all the paces. There's no secret or shortcut to success. But the interesting thing about that 10,000 hour rule is I think it matters how you do it. How you practice matters. And it makes a big difference. So, just playing piano every day because your parents made you take piano lessons doesn't mean you're going to become a great pianist. Yeah. But if you play every day because you love it, because you're passionate, because you want to learn more, you want to learn how to play the right notes and how to do it faster and how to do it better, then you're going to get better because you're going to be constantly focused on how you can improve. And so I think how you practice makes a big difference. And that's why I think it's so important when people talk about, how you want to make money or how you want to start a business or how you want to write a book. You make sure it's something you actually want to do. Like you're not just doing it because you think you'll look good or because all your friends are doing it, but because it's something you actually want to do with your life. With the short years that you have on this planet, something you really, really want to do, then you're going to have that passion to stick with it and to learn and to do better at a whole nother level. And it'll help you get there a lot faster, I think. So if you want to speed up that 10,000 hours, do something you actually love to do, and you can speed that up for sure.
Yeah, totally. All right, Tom. So you've published all these books, and when you told me you published, what was it, 12 books in a year, right?
Yeah.
And what's happening with your income right now? Are you making enough money for a living, or do you still need to do something else?
Yeah, I mean, my passive income is more than enough to sustain me and my family right now. So I'm definitely at a very nice spot financially and really happy with it. I'm not, fantastically wealthy, but I have passive income coming in month after month after month. I don't have to worry about it, If I want to take the whole month off or take a whole year off, I can do that. And my income maybe it'll go down a little bit, but it'll be more than enough to sustain me.
Yeah, that's really awesome, and it's something that always amazed me about people like you, that they create this passive income by, let's say, writing and publishing those books. I find that really amazing, that it gives you the freedom to be with your family, do things that you like, and it also gives you the freedom to keep working on your businesses and writing more books and coming up with more ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned before, spending time with your friends, like what's important to you in your life. And for me, it's important to have freedom in every area of life. And so, I look at some of my friends who are entrepreneurs and they're working so hard in their businesses, but they've never created a business with passive income, right? And so if that business they're working on fails, they have to rely on, their savings and investments, or maybe they don't even have any, maybe they put it all into the business. And so that's a really stressful life, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, bravo to those people who are willing to risk it all, like Elon Musk. That's amazing. That's awesome. But for me, I know that, it was way more important for me to focus on passive income. Like, every business opportunity I look at, I'm like, okay, is this gonna keep me getting paid month after month for the next 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 years? And the great thing about the publishing business, man, and I didn't realize this going into it, but I kind of lucked upon it. But the copyright law in the U.S., you own that copyright for 75 plus years after you die. So you're guaranteed 75 plus years of income from your book.
Yeah.
There's no other business on the planet where you're guaranteed 75 years of income, and you can pass it on to your descendants and so forth. So, I mean, that's amazing. And so that really appeals to me. But, it all depends on, what's important to you in your life. What do you need? I don't need, a Lamborghini and, 5 houses and, because all that shit just adds more stress to your life.
Yep, I agree.
I know people who own 3, 4, 5 houses. It's like, dude, it's enough work to manage one house. What are you doing with all these houses all over the planet? You don't need them. It's so easy. You can go on Airbnb, you can rent a place, in 2 seconds anywhere on the planet, so. Yeah. I think it's just getting focused on what do you actually need to live a happy life? Because I think a lot of people think they need more than they actually do.
Exactly. It's that, and it's also I've spoken to some rather successful entrepreneurs who had these kind of dreams, or at least they thought that that's what they wanted, right? Let's say to own a Lamborghini. And when this entrepreneur couldn't quite afford it just yet, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs could lease a Lamborghini, right? And, make these payments every month. But the guy said, you know what, I'm just going to rent one for 2 hours. I think it was kind of like a crash course on how to drive one, and it was on a racetrack. So he spent a few $100s, like $500 or whatever. He rented that Lamborghini with an instructor. He got to drive it. And in the end of that test drive, he said, you know what, my goal is complete. I don't want to own one. I figured out that I always wanted to have the experience of driving one. I fulfilled that experience. I don't need one anymore. That's it. I'm done. Why would I spend $300,000 plus maintenance, plus insurance, plus everything for something that I could do, once every few months for a few $100?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's figuring out, as you said, figuring out exactly what you need and what you want, not what you think you want and, what people would think is cool. Because I know a lot of beginner entrepreneurs that they do this for the wrong reason. And many of them, they don't even think about better life or freedom or any of that. All they think about is like, well, once I have this like supercar and a nice house, people gonna look at me and be like, well, this guy is successful, good for him. And, a lot of people fail to realize that it's not something you want. Like, why would you really want that? You don't, you shouldn't try to become successful so others could look at you and be like, oh, well, good for him, he's successful, right? That's I think it's the wrong reason to be in business or to do anything really.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, one of my mentors that's totally changed my life is Jim Rohn. So he talks about, the goal of becoming a millionaire. Why should you set a goal to become a millionaire? He says, for what it will make of you to achieve it. For what it will make of you to achieve it. And that's always stuck with me because it totally transforms, goals. Or why do you want to be rich? For the person that's going to make you, for the person you have to become rich, right?
Yeah.
Because think about all the value you'll have to add to people's lives, all the service you'll have to give to people, all the employees you'll have to, support families and support communities, is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it'll make you a better person. And that's the reason to do it, not because, that's the reason for me to do it. Other people, everyone's got their own reasons, but for me, it's not inspiring to get rich so, like you said, other people can just think I'm cool or successful or whatever. Like, I don't care. I don't care what people think about me, but I care what I think about myself. I care what my family thinks about me. And I want to become someone who's making the world a better place and someone who's doing things for the right reasons. And so, I love working with entrepreneurs like you, Alex, who get that, who have a bigger purpose rather than just making money. Because, money is great. It's fantastic. We need it. It's an incredibly valuable tool for society. But there's a lot more meaning available in life than just money.
Yeah, totally. All right, Tom. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about TCK Publishing. Tell me how that happened and what it's all about.
Yeah, so after kind of my self-publishing success blew up and I had that first $12,000+ month, I started getting a ton of emails from people on Facebook and Twitter, people who had seen what I was doing and saw how successful I had become really quickly. And they were just asking questions like, how did you write a book? How did you publish your book? How did you market it? Like, just same questions over and over and over again. And so I was working with a coach at the time. He said, hey, just create an FAQ of all the questions you get asked, and then, post that on your website, and you can just refer people to that, save you a lot of time. So I did that. And then I kept getting more questions. And so then he was like, well, hey, why don't you record some videos that explain things in more detail so people can go through that? So I did that, posted a bunch to YouTube, and those blew up. And then he said, now it's successful. Why don't you just create even more videos and do them step by step and create like a video training course? So that's what I did. And now I've got the largest video training course on Kindle publishing in the world. It's over 20 or 30,000 students now.
Wow.
It's really big, and it just blew up. So in that course, I basically walk you through step by step, like, how do you write your book and then, get your title and your book cover and the editing and all that stuff. I walk you through everything, the publishing and the marketing. But what happened was about half of the students that went through that course essentially ended up emailing me and saying, Tom, I love your course. It's great. It's really helpful, but I don't want to do all that marketing stuff. I don't want to do all that promotion stuff. I don't want to manage the account. Can you do it for me? And so I got enough of those emails where I just, really had to talk and with some advisors and think about, okay, do I actually want to do this for people? Do I want to start a publishing company? So, because there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of people now starting publishing companies and they really don't know what they're doing. Like they haven't talked to attorneys about all the legal issues because there's a lot. Like there's just so much stuff that goes into it and so much liability. So it was a big decision to make, but eventually I decided to do it because I thought it would really help make the world a better place because I was getting emails from people who had really important work that I thought was going to make the world a much better place and change lives, and I wanted to help them get that message out there. And I knew that they weren't going to do it just by themselves, even with the step-by-step video trainings. They just didn't want to do that stuff, the publishing and marketing side. So that's why I started the company, and really just started with my students, and then it's grown just through referrals and word of mouth. I mean, I don't do much marketing for it, other than things like podcasts and stuff. But it's just me talking and sharing my message. It's not like I'm promoting heavily the publishing company. But that's how it, kind of evolved and it's grown since there. But we're really kind of a boutique publisher. We don't take on a ton of clients. We reject about 9 out of 10 submissions. Wow. At least. And it didn't start that way. At first I thought, I'm just going to publish everyone and it's going to be great. And, but it became this huge headache with publishing books for people who really didn't care, or publishing books for people who all they wanted was the money. They didn't care about what they were having the books ghostwritten in the Philippines and stuff like that. And I was like, that's not what I want to do. I want to publish books that matter and that are important, that are going to make the world a better place. So I had to get really kind of refocus on the brand and what I really wanted to do at the company. But yeah, that's where we're at today. So we take on just a handful of clients every month. And it's a ton of fun. I mean, helping people get their books published in ebooks and print and audiobooks is just a ton of fun. And it's great to see, to have my clients earning this passive income now is really fun too, because, one of my clients, she's like in her 70s, her husband just recently died. And, without the income from her books, I don't know how she would make ends meet. She's just on Social Security. Mm-hmm. So it's been a big game changer for a lot of my clients. And I'm really proud of that I'm able to help people achieve their dream. This same lady, she had a dream of getting that book published for 40 years. She wrote it 40 years ago and never could get a traditional book deal or a publisher or anything. So, wow, to see her dreams come true and to be able to support herself financially is, it's awesome. I love it. That's what keeps me up in the morning, or gets me up in the morning, is knowing that I make a difference in people's lives like that.
Yeah, really awesome stuff, Tom. And I'm really happy to hear how you took this whole opportunity that kind of knocked on your door, and a lot of people would have ignored it, but you kept on working at it. Okay, I'll do an FAQ page. Okay, I'll do some videos. Okay, I'll do more detailed videos. And you kept on going and, following that demand and understanding what your audience wants and giving it to them. That's super important. And seriously, man, thumbs up to you for grabbing that opportunity and actually listening to the people, listening to your fans and to your audience. That's awesome stuff.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, Tom. So we're coming to an end of this episode, and I would like to share the most important piece of advice from you to beginner entrepreneurs. And I'm not talking about beginner authors or people that want to necessarily publish their books, but people who just want to start something of their own business, or who maybe started their own business and they're struggling at the beginning. What would be that most important thing or suggestion from you to them?
I think the biggest thing that I would recommend, if I had to start over from the beginning and do it from scratch, what I would do is, first of all, I'd get in the habit of checking my calendar every day, right? And then in that calendar, every single day I would schedule at least 1 hour to learn, just to learn things that are going to help you grow in your business. And I would schedule at least half an hour just to think and to meditate. And so when I talk about thinking, what I do is I have a notebook and I write down questions that are important in my business. So, what can I do today to increase my income? How can I get more clients today? How can I make my clients even happier? How can I make my clients so freaking happy that they would have to be insane to do business with any of my competitors. Right? Those are the kind of questions I would ask myself, because that will give you the answers that you need to make your business get better and better and better. Building a business is an iterative process, and that's a big word. I never really understood it until I started reading all these like fancy entrepreneurship books. But it just means that you take one step at a time and you keep improving and keep improving and you keep improving. That's how you make a business successful. You're going to start, your product's going to be horrible, your service is going to be horrible, you're going to be, the least powerful competitor in your industry when you first start out. And your job is just keep climbing and climbing and keep getting better and better and better every day. And you can start out at the bottom and rise to the top if you are constantly improving. So that's what I would do. And I would just make sure every single day I've got my calendar time scheduled to make sure that you're actually growing the business, you're growing yourself, you're actually learning new things and implementing those new things, rather than just checking your email and doing busy, boring, mundane tasks to keep the business going. You need to do tasks that are actually going to drive the business forward and make it grow.
Amazing advice, Tom. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know many of us are guilty of doing those tasks you described and, pretending that we're working by watching YouTube or something. But yeah, putting time away, especially for, learning and making yourself better, making your business better. Super amazing advice. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
All right, Tom. So before we say goodbye, I'd like you to tell us, where could people learn more about you and your business? A website of yours, or is there a better way to learn more about you?
Yeah, definitely. So you can check out the blog at tckpublishing.com, and you can learn more about the publishing company. I've got a bunch of great articles in there about everything from writing, publishing, marketing, blogging, all kinds of cool stuff there. It's useful. You can contact me on the website. There's a little contact button. If you got any questions, I'm happy to answer them as best I can and help out and support any way that I can. The other thing is, if you like podcasts, I've got my own podcast show called the Publishing Profits Podcast, where every week I bring in a best-selling author or agent or publisher or marketer or lawyer or attorney or accountant to come talk about what's actually working today in people's businesses. So that can be a lot of fun. Come check that out. And then if you do want to learn how to actually write, publish, market your own book, I do have a free video training course. So I walk you through the process step by step at ebookpublishingschool.com. That's ebookpublishingschool.com. So there's 4 training videos. I walk you through how to format your book for Kindle, how to publish it on Kindle. And the last 2 videos, we go in depth into actually how to market and promote your book. And it's all free at ebookpublishingschool.com.
Awesome. And Tom, another resource that you should mention for people who actually want to buy your books and read them, where could they get them? Absolutely.
So it's all available on Amazon.com. You search my name, Tom Corson-Knowles, or you can just go to amazon.com/author/business, and I'll take you right to my Amazon profile with all my books right there.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Tom, thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing all your experiences and amazing advice.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. It was a pleasure talking with you, man.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. As usual, I will be putting up show notes page at extrapodcast.com/49, where you will be able to find resources, links, and other things mentioned in today's episode. Also, head over to extrapodcast.com/iTunes in order to subscribe to the show, leave a rating and a review, which will help me tremendously. Thank you so much once again, and I'll talk to you next Monday.